We are going to look at something that I have thought about quite for a long time. This thought is how music influences a story, since music is an composition that accompanies us throughout our entire days, be it at work, be it chores, be it just the everyday life, be it to lock in and have a mood in a daily scenario at all. I thought that music itself uses these kind of lock-in moods to build atmosphere, to build a scene, to just give us a vibe and a feeling that we experience a certain scene to be. And such, I have came up with 3-4 categories I observed stories use to categorize their scenes into. These are, I gotta remind you, are not things that are discussed in writing theory. These are just my observations and things I believe I can categorize a certain scene into. But of course I don't want to bore you with any more information on my what if, what is, and what not. Bro, just saying, let's get started, alright? Chapter 1 is, of course, we have music and how it conveys information. I mean, if you gotta do this, we should start with the more or less easier part. I will not go into deep analysis, as I mentioned previously, because this is just a quick mentioning and a quick thoughts, quick things I have observed throughout my years of watching media. So take with a grain of salt, please. What I can say though is that a lot of media uses them to influence our viewing and our experience on them. For example, such games that use music to enhance the viewer's experience by conveying information are the Soulspawn games. I don't know who exactly cooked in the studios, but I gotta say they cooked with the Dark Souls games, especially since they are my favorites. Since they all in Soulspawn stories come into being with the orchestral music pumping in our ears, they are a cinematic experience. They encapsulate the game in a scene they immerse yourself into. The music kicks in with the already established world in that part of the map you are in, the boss fight you have currently, or just an overall scenery, which is simply a little sprinkle on top of the cake. Especially in the aforementioned boss fights, the music allows to build up the atmosphere, accompanying a bittersweet tone to the orchestra playing at the moment, which is already a very commonly used theme in Soulspawn games. Bittersweetness with a tone of tragedy coming from every bit of the story. This is a part of the feeling that it wants to convey, a special thing to the current scenario you are in without much words to use, just the sucking in of the feeling of the viewers. Another example I can give you are the Metal Gear games, especially my favorite, which is Rising. Rising's boss themes especially are a primal example in how music and its lyrics craft a story in the closed bubble of the boss fight. Each boss not only has a story you learn about after the boss fight or in a DLC, for example, Sam or Wolf, but the lyrics of the boss theme entails a ton of information regarding the philosophy, be it background, motives, and so on, be it thoughts, whatever you can think of. In the aforementioned Wolf example, it speaks a lot about the state of Wolf's mind and emotions during his captivity. The feeling settling of lack and power, freedom and choice, a pack that follows orders like a sheep in a herd, the sheepkeeper. The yearning for more and the resulting breakout from that is conveyed to us in calculated moments throughout the entire boss fight, and the part you are in the boss fight is used with the speed of the OST to convey such information and hype moments. This is in overall a build up from the beginning of the boss fight to the end, where we have more of an orchestral theme, and then it just pumps in the hype moment with the kick in of the lyrics. These are then a total result of how Wolf feels in the exact boss fight. It is the pinnacle of his existence, it is the height he experiences. This is all conveyed for us by the music and the lyrics itself. Of course, good examples aren't the only moments we have with music and storytelling, since music is mostly a tool, so they can also be misused, of course. In such, I can give you a few examples, and we will dive into them with chapter 2. How music ruins scenes or is being unnecessarily used. In the usual means, the music has a goal it wants to fulfill. In the upgrade of a scene to really push emotions, the hype or the terror you feel. Although there are moments music is misplaced, effectively decreasing the affect. In TV shows, for example, this is the equivalent to a laugh track trying to push forward comedic scenes, but the repetitiveness of the same audio stimulation simply ruins it. In the examples, the scene is well done, everything is set in motion, but unfortunately the music kicks in and resulting in an off-putting feeling. This often comes to play when the scenario itself is devouring you so immensely that it created its own bubble, deflecting music from enhancing it further. That is actually something good, to be honest, because you have to think of it like this. It is in no need of the effect of music usually puts in, since it does that by itself. The scene has that all inherently to itself if the scene is, in our example, written perfectly well. Since in such moments, music will just be an overusage of the thing already present and wouldn't give anything of significance to clinch to. It's a burden. Imagine it as a fifth wheel on the car. It may be worth a thought, but bringing in no advantage at all, it would result in annoyance in the scene, at least often for me. The feeling that it wants to sell you something yet it isn't there, or it hasn't earned yet. Because let us be real, if a writer thinks that a perfect scene, in quotation marks, perfect scene, has a need for music to just convey things the scene itself has already, then the writer can't see the perfection he crafted there. Examples are mostly in many slasher or general horror movies I've watched. The atmosphere in where a random protagonist, be it boy, girl, be it the main character, it doesn't matter, runs down a dark pathway, like a sweating corridor with the march of clanking wood panels and owling out, and there is then this eerie sound that tries to build up tension. It is something loud, getting artificially increasing, everything that is there just to fail at it, because it isn't doing what it is intended to do. Bro, it either ruins the moment you build up, because what should be scarier and terrifying is the consequence the build up has as foundation for the atmosphere and the tension itself, not your frill piece of shit music garbage getting louder and louder in my eardrums. It is distracting from everything else you have built up so far. Worst case, they use the same track in every tension scene in the movie over and over again, so it more often feels like a cheap copy of the original part. Of the first part, it worked maybe a bit, but now it's just milking dry a dead cow. Then there are the examples where it is implemented that outright scream at your face, I don't need to undermine something. As mentioned in my previous example, music in perfect scenes are a thing to think about, not a must-have. If a writer decides to put something over, you should make it clear the music is giving something new to the table, or something emphasizing by it. The sheer idea that the scene is in need of music, that is false that I hate grotesquely. Most criminally affected pieces in media of that are anime, in my opinion. I swear to fucking god, nearly every death scene in anime has the shit. When sad music just booms over everything and simply tries to do what the scene itself does already perfectly. This isn't like with a horror movie where it just ruins something, but just trying to be the scene itself. First, I can argue being an attempt to increase and fail of what is already there. The anime example is a straight out theft of everything the scene tries to be. And this essentially and intentionally takes away the build up of the scene and the atmosphere itself.
I lost something once. I lost something I couldn't live without. My identity.
What can I say? Sometimes it just hits that way. And it's often very unnecessary to put in music. If the scene already works itself alone, it has everything inherently perfectly done, why you try to enhance it with something that has no need of? Maybe it is even better if there is no music at all. Maybe it just doesn't need any saving. You get what I mean? But however, the word saving is of course a very good introduction to the chapter 3, because there are parts where music tries to save a scene. A moment comes where the scene is just plain bullshit. Every aspect you can argue is trash. Imagine it for a minute. Nothing's really working, and all the author can now do is to insert music to save the day, because it creates an illusion. I see this often happening in either fight scenes or in generally drama. The idea is to manipulate the overall atmosphere and the scene to simply hide that fact there's nothing that actually can be saved. I never understood why though. It's not a healing item. Music is not a magical item that can repair everything you put it on. It is just a tool you can use to enhance something that is there to a certain degree. It doesn't make a trash disappear. These scenes often incorporate misused tropes or cliches and hope something sticks. Comically seeing, the music is such, either trying to hold a trope or a cliche in itself, as an add-on more often than not. Sadly, because there is no substance to the scene it upholds, the music, though being so great, cannot save it. There isn't anything that it can save. There's nothing present that the music can enhance to begin with. You can't even call it being unnecessary because the scene itself has nothing. Music will carry its own feelings, and when that feeling is already there and it does something, like making a death or a fight scene more connectable, then it won't do it because the scene is empty, but because there is something it can use to do its job with. Examples come in waves, like any show running longer than 5 seasons, most of anime hammering music over drama because he just haven't had enough time to feel empathy towards anything involved. And of course, an example I can give is Supernatural. Onward from season 8, anything else is just this purest example of it. How you gonna try to tell me that you are putting in scenes where the characters already had all the growth in previous seasons and the most important bits of the story are already done? All you are currently doing is just making that cow dry. There is nothing music can save. There is nothing, anything in the scene that has some substance. You are just pulling something there that has been already established seasons ago. Let it go, let it die, end of it. But all this would lastly come down to my experience of music influencing writing. As I said previously, this is nothing objective. This is just what I observe. But perhaps it can also be I have missed a few things. These 4 categories /3 are just things that I noticed, some things that I can categorize. If you have more, if you're thinking of adding something to it, feel free to get into comments and tell me what you think of it. And please, you can always comment something that you have as an example that fits in one of the categories and tell me why you think that is. In that regard, I hope you enjoyed this short video, and I hope I can interest you further into the topics I have discussing and I have talked about, so forth and so on. Subscribe to the channel, give me a thumbs up, give a like and a comment like any other YouTuber demands you to. So anyways, have a nice day, my people.